state is a fiercely competitive and ruthless society.
And now, After Hours with Rixx Javix.
Welcome to After Hours with Rixx Javix. I'm your host, Rixx Javix, coming to you from the darkest reaches of low-security space, live from the Stay Frosty Lounge. Grab a cold drink, light a cigar, and let's talk.
Hi guys, my name is Jim Halescott. I'm on the EVE Online Facebook group, and I do have a Reddit account as well, but I don't really go on the EVE Reddit that much. I'm Tony Ambrunale, the former leader of the Thieves Guild. We currently have someone else who's filled that position, and I've recently just stepped away from the game because of real life commitments.
Thieves Guild, I mean, what the heck? That's kind of a shadowy thing, right? I mean, tell how did you get started with that? I guess let's start at the beginning. How did that happen?
Okay, so basically it happened, but it was literally probably about a year ago exactly to this month, and I was just flying through space doing what I was normally doing at the time, which was a lot of exploration and wormholes and things. Right. And every now and again I would happen upon a structure in space, and I noticed that it didn't have a name. All it had was the blue symbol, which you can find on the sensor overlay, which surrounds the shield armor, etc., of the big dial thing at the bottom right. of the screen.
Right.
And if you hover your mouse over it, there's no name to it. But I actually managed to warp to one of them, and I found out that it was scoopable. So then I started to think to myself, I wonder, if there's many of these floating around in space. So I got one of my characters, and I spent hours and days. And I very, very quickly started to find a pattern on how to actually find ones that are unanchoring, and I then decided to make. I did have, which I still do. I have 38 accounts, all of them,
wow.
Which were Omega. That's 114 characters. I started to make these characters as quickly as I possibly could, so then I could basically seed my characters everywhere in the entire game to basically watch for unanchoring citadels.
Right.
And then as soon as something unanchors, I would take it. And that was basically the essence of how it started, was just finding stuff that was unanchoring or already unanchored and just taking it before the owners even realized it was gone.
Wow. All right. So you were doing that all by yourself then? Or?
I started originally doing that all by myself, and my first few ones that I actually stole, I advertised them because, at the time citadels were rather new and they were worth a lot of money, and they're not worth today as much as they were back then. I think at Astraeus was around about 1.5 billion, whereas today it's about 900 to 1 billion, so they're quite cheap now.
Right.
But people were quite happily, they would gank you with a T1 hauler just to get the citadel with the chance of actually looting it from you.
Right.
So I actually saw the logistical problems with this, to actually getting it to Jita or to Amar to sell them for good prices. So I decided to sell them directly through the EVE Facebook group at a lesser rate than what it was actually, the actual the market ones. So I started to advertise, and I basically just shoved it out there and said, anybody want to buy this? I just stole it from this group. And then people would be like, wow, you just stole this, how did you manage to do that? And I decided at that point to keep it quiet, and I wasn't going to tell anybody like my methods and how I was actually stealing the things that I was.
Right.
And I actually very quickly managed to get a few buyers who were very interested in what I was doing, and they wanted to become continuous buyers with me. So that was basically the start of the actual guild at that point, because I had then the logistics of having people to buy things off me, and they were happy to buy pretty much anything off me at a lesser rate, because they would then obviously have contacts or ways of getting it into Jita and Amar to actually sell it. Some of these people were actually members of Code. Some of these people are members of Goonswarm, some of them are members of Test, some of them are members of Section 8. So we've got people, all over the place, and there are actually, people inside the guild are enemies as well in the game. They
Right.
are actually enemies.
Right.
But when they're actually in the guild on that side of it, they do cooperate and they do actually work together, which is actually quite nice.
Right. That's pretty cool. Wow.
Well, that was the start, and then I decided, we need to really kind of like get some more people on board. So I invited a few very close friends of mine who I've known for a very long time, who I really trust. Told them what was going on, and they wanted to join in, so they came on board. And then we kind of grew to about 10 to 12 people, which is what we've got today. And then we decided to start outreaching. So it was all about information gathering on every citadel that we could in high sec, low sec, everything, just as many as we could.
Wow.
And we've got this huge spreadsheet now with so much intelligence, so much stuff. We just know where people are and where they actually operate.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, does that turn into opportunities other ways too? Because you've got so much intel built about all the different citadels and who owns them and what their timers are, I guess. And
very much so. I was able to before I actually left. It was about a day or two before I actually quit, and there was actually a group of people who I noticed that a Vendetta mercenary group were at war with, and I had information on where their citadels were located in Highsec.
Right.
So I didn't give them the location of their citadels, but I just went over there with a scout, and I managed to find a group of them. There was about 10 or so people,
right,
and they were all mining ice in Highsec. They had a freighter, they had like a load of miners, and they had an Orcam on field. So I just kind of contacted Vendetta and was just like, hey guys, you want to come and kill them? Just completely free information. I could have sold the information, but at the time I just wanted to see people burn.
Right. That's awesome.
So that was it.
Oh, that's funny.
Within about 20 minutes, they came over and killed. They managed to get the Orca and the freighter. Unfortunately, everything else got off grid because they were obviously watching a local channel, which was good on them.
Right.
But the other two things, the big ones that couldn't warp off in time, they managed to get those, which was quite nice. So I thought that was cool.
I love the idea of the way things work in Eve. So many times there's these sort of weird little things that happen where, people see an opportunity and they take advantage of it. This reminds me a lot of, this was a number of years ago, probably 6 or 7 years ago now. And I happened to be in an alliance down in, I can't remember exactly where. It was near the Spire, I guess it would be if you were looking at the east coast of Eve. And Atlas at the time was a big Russian alliance that just broke apart or left, and they left so quickly that they left a lot of their POS structures up. So we were just driving through. It was all empty, and there were all these POSes that were dying, and just going offline. So I think within a week we probably collected almost about 20 or 30 of these POS structures, and they still had, sometimes they had stuff in them, or different structure. We were making out like bandits really for about a week or two.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of the same thing, I guess.
It's just, the same mechanics that CCP have for the structures applied to the POS structures. And I remember when I used to play with POS structures a lot down in Nullsec, that if you were unanchoring it, as soon as it was unanchored, you could scoop it.
Right.
So, and that's the exact same mechanics for the structures. And I was quite surprised when I actually learned of this, and after testing myself and seeing that it was the exact same mechanics, especially because instead of it being I think it's, if I remember correctly, if it was a large POS tower, it takes 1 hour to unanchor.
Right.
A small one would be like 15 minutes.
Yeah,
but one of the structures takes 7 days, and they've got the huge big unanchoring sign next to it. So basically, if you've got the patience, you can just get in a ship that's really fast and fly to every single citadel in the entire region, make a note of every single one that's unanchoring, and then just come back like every couple of hours and see if it's unanchored yet.
Just wait. Yeah.
Just wait, There's a lot of that.
Wow. And if people aren't very attentive to it, then, why not, right?
I think at least 60 to 70% of the ones that I actually stole, the people who lost them weren't even logged in to actually collect them.
Yeah.
Wow. And these were not just the small ones, the medium ones. They were like the Asbels and the Fortizars. I actually had 2 Fortizars where the people weren't even online. They weren't even in the system.
Oh, my goodness.
And I would then contact these people after I'd stole them, something along the lines of, "Thank you very much for your kind donation to the Thieves Guild." And the amount of like hatred I would get from these people when they would reply was pretty awesome.
Tears, yeah. I know.
Pure tears.
Yeah, I remember people who were trying really hard to perfect the the whole warp in and scoop up the pos. As soon as it unanchored, just scoop in, warp in, scoop it up before the guys could get to it. There were some people who were really good at that. I guess it's kind of the same thing.
Well, this is when it comes when you're actually joining the guild at the moment. If anybody actually wanted to join, there's actually a lot of things that you have to do to actually get into the guild.
Okay.
So one of them is an examination, which I currently, since no one has actually gotten that far yet, no one's actually got that far to actually attempt the examination. So I haven't actually completely written it yet.
Right.
But it's all to do with the game mechanics and how the game mechanics work. So when you're referring to the warping distance, that is one of the questions that I definitely would want to put in there. So I can actually happily give the answer to this. So the actual warping distance for if you wanted to actually get at 0 to scoop a citadel or to scoop one of the structures is 250 kilometers or more.
Okay.
So I usually put my characters around about 300 kilometers off cloaked.
Right.
So as soon as it drops, I can warp in at 0, uncloak, scoop, and warp off.
Wow. Nice.
And then there have been many times when I've actually had people on grid. We've actually had a guy on grid, and he's about 20 kilometers out, and he's like slow boating to go and pick it up.
Right.
And he's the owner, and I'll just warp in and take it, and he's just like, "What's going on?"
That's so funny. That's awesome. I love stuff like that. It's just good. I don't know if it's good game mechanics or not, but it's good Eve. Let's put it that way, right?
The smart people win.
The smart people win. Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly,
Yeah. Well, that's what we, we're pirates. We steal things too, but mostly opportunistically, because we also happen to be very lazy. This intel gathering and having multiple characters, that's a lot of work for us. But, so we're very much opportunists. If we run into a system and we were to happen to see this happening, we'd probably do it. We've done it a few times actually, on purpose too. But, that's just the way I tell people too is, if you're smarter than me, you're going to win. It's not a complicated formula. Eve's a complicated game, but really it comes down to is who's going to play the game mechanics better, me or you. And some people, every once in a while, you run into somebody who, at that particular moment, maybe not long term, but that particular moment's going to play the game mechanics better than you.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be all that difficult, for example, to set you up as a set a trap for someone like you.
Yes, I set up traps numerous times while I was doing this, and some of the people in the guild don't even know some of the things that I've been doing.
Right.
Because some of the things I actually keep to myself rather than sharing information with everybody in the guild, because I just don't need to. I have to kind of lay a line somewhere and say, right, they're helpful to this point, but I don't need them for this. I can do this on my own, so I'll just be quiet about that.
Right.
But I actually did an average. So over a period of time, while I was collecting the structures, I actually kind of made an average of how much money I was making per week, ISK-wise, and I was getting between 5 and 6 billion per week, quite happily, just doing this. Yeah, it was a lot of money. Yeah, it was really good.
Wow.
Keep in mind, go on.
Just doing that. That's it.
Just doing that, yeah.
Wow, crazy.
And keep in mind, alpha accounts can do this as well. So if anybody who's an alpha account, if you're listening, you can do this, no problem. The only thing you won't have access to is the cloaking devices, which, if you're cloaked, then the people who are actually, the owners don't know that you're there. This is assuming if they're actually on grid at all to actually scoop it.
Right. Right.
So, if anybody wants to make a quick buck and they've got the time and the patience to put into doing this, you can go ahead and do it. It's really,
it's certainly a doable thing, and it's also a thing you could really do all by yourself, as you proved, right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
But with the average of how much money I was making per week, I decided to put an advert, or not just one, but a number of adverts out for people who wanted to make some quick money, and they were the ones who actually gathered all the intelligence and all the information for me, and I would be paying them 5 or 6 million ISK per citadel that they actually fly to, and they make a note of who owns it, what corporation it is, what alliance it is, what system it's in, what type of structure it is, so Vateru, Astraeus, Asbel, Fortizar, and that's all I wanted from them, but that was all the information. So it's very, very easy, and you don't even need to warp to the structures really to do it. You can just do it as soon as you enter system, right click and just look at the information, and that's all I needed. So I actually got a lot of people who were actually very interested in doing that, and I very quickly managed to build a database of all all the information that I needed to operate in the areas that I was operating in.
Amazing. That's amazing. Wow. Yeah,
it's just outsourcing, you know.
It's just outsourcing, right? Yeah. I mean, it's normal business practices, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. They had no idea what I was going to be using the information for, but they're more than happy to get the payment for it.
Right. Yeah, why not? Yeah, is that going to change now with the new 25 million ISK alpha thing? I didn't catch if Cloak is going to be involved with that.
I'm not sure, because I'm not sure, but if they do actually put the cloaks on, even if it was just the Tech 1 cloaks, that would be pretty cool. Because I might even shut down some of my accounts and just make them go alpha and use those rather than keeping them omega, because all of my accounts before, they were all omega, because I was able to use the blockade runners with the T2 cloaks, but even having a T1 cloak would be good enough.
Right, yeah, and then it would be free, right? So then it's all profit at that point.
Precisely, yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. Wow. That's crazy. Huh. So what I mean, so you were saying before, I mean, how long have you been playing EVE then?
Oh, I started EVE early 2013. So to be honest, with a lot of, players, I think I'm actually quite a new player compared, because I know people who've been playing since like 2005 and 2006, and strangely enough, they come to me for advice on like game mechanics and things like this, which I find really interesting since they've been playing longer than I have. But it's I've only been playing about 4.5, maybe 5 years nearly, and that's all. So it's not a huge amount of time.
Right. But I mean, so what was it about it that got you involved? Were you playing MMOs before, or was this
I used to play an old MMO years and years ago called Tibia, which is similar to World of Warcraft. It's a German company, but I think the game's been going under for a few years now.
Right.
I just quit that because I suppose it was full of children, and I got to that age in my life where I'm old now. I don't really want to be playing with kids anymore.
Right.
And I spoke to a friend at work, and he said to me, "Have you ever heard of EVE Online?" So I said, "No, I don't know what it's about." So he kind of explained it to me. And I wouldn't say instantly, wrong word to use, but straight away I wasn't really didn't really seem that interested in it. And then I decided to go and look at it online like a few weeks or a month or so later. Kind of looked at the videos and thought, wow, this is really complicated. It's I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this.
Right.
And I'll be quite honest, when I first started the game, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I think no one has a clue what the hell they're doing. It is basically like that meme. It's here's a shit. F you.
Exactly.
And I started way before the new player experience came out, and I had no idea what I was doing. I think the first thing I actually managed to master, I wouldn't even say master, the first thing I was able to actually do and know what I was doing was, as a lot of people do when they first start the game, is do some mining. So for the first 2 years, maybe 2.5 years, that's basically what I did, was high-sec mining. I realized quickly that you could have more than one account online at the same time, which is really cool. So I made another account, and I got that I was paying the subscription for that, and I got that online. Did realize what an Orca was, learned how that worked. So I got another account for the Orca, and then my accounts just started to expand exponentially at that point, and I just got more and more accounts. And then I just got to a point when you hit that ISK ceiling with mining, where you just can't actually make any more money at that point, because you've got the skills maxed out to the top, and you just can't mine any faster. You can't get any more money coming in that way.
Right.
So I started to look for other ways to make money. And I realized that exploration, wormhole exploration especially, was actually very, very, very profitable. And I really enjoyed that, especially with the risk that came to it when people actually started hunting me, and then I started hunting them, and I killed a few of them. And it was a lot of thrill involved in that. So, and then obviously I found the Citadels, and here we are today, basically.
Right. There's definitely a ceiling to the mining. And you can only go so far with it, right? I mean,
well, there's a ceiling really for pretty much everything. This includes incursions. This includes even pretty much to almost all professions. I think there's only a few professions where really the ISK ceiling depends on a lot of factors. Exploration's one of them. Obviously, luck is a factor. Finding a wormhole system that hasn't been touched for like a day, and then and you're alone, and you can just harvest sites on your own, and you get loads and loads of income.
Yes.
There's station trading, that's something that's really good, you know,
Right.
but that sort of thing doesn't really have an ISK ceiling.
No.
And also what I was doing as well, Citadel theft or even corporation theft, that doesn't have a ceiling. The only really limitation on that is access and luck as well.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think really people should kind of classify the professions in EVE into two parts, where there's ISK ceiling in these ones and no ISK ceiling in others. And that's, I thought that was really interesting when I started to look into it that way.
Yeah, when you think about the formula between those things, you know, there are professions, you know, like piracy, for example, you know, that really is all luck based. It's just a roll of the dice. So you know, I can I can put a lot of effort into it for a day and not make any ISK, or I can put a little bit of effort into it the next day and just get lucky and, you know, pick up a whole bunch of faction mods that are...
that was exactly the same when I was stealing Citadels. I mean, some days I would be flying around, I don't know, let's say domain region, and I'm not even joking, this is how long it would take me, to fly to every single system, fly to every single Citadel, which is... I know.
Wow.
You can imagine how there's. I think there's like 800, 900 or so in domain region alone. It took me at least 6 to 8 hours to do that straight, and that was with no distractions, no breaks. It was a very, very long process.
Right.
I would do that once a week, and that's just in domain region. And then other days I would do other regions around that area because I had time. I'd might as well go and do other ones.
That's crazy.
And there were times when I'd fly around and I'd find nothing. Like maybe I'd find one on anchoring after 6 or 7 hours of searching, and it's just like, it's really demoralizing when you find that. But then there are times when you fly around and it's like, oh wow, I found this one, and then I've had times when I've actually found like 20 on anchoring in domain region all at the same time.
Wow.
And then I'm kind of like, that's why I need all the extra accounts, all the extra characters, so I can put them on grid, logged off, so I don't need to fly to them. I can just log in and just check it, and that's all I have to do.
Well, how much trouble do you have getting those assets out of the domain, for example?
Out of domain, I don't have any trouble whatsoever.
No?
As soon as I scoop it, I dock up with it, either in a public Citadel or a NPC station. Typically NPC is usually better.
Right.
And then I basically take a screenshot and I put a price according to what it is, and I'll put it on Facebook with the Thieves Guild chat and all the guys who like to buy stuff, the people who've actually started to... the people who
follow
actually
you,
follow me, they would basically just say, I'll buy that, and it would be bought within 5 to 10 minutes. I would have a buyer within 5 to 10 minutes quite easily.
Wow.
I would if I were to scoop an Aspel, they're typically like 4.1 billion, I think, to sell at the moment, but I would sell those for about 3.7 billion. So the people who were buying off me, they were more than happy to buy that off me. Yeah,
right, they were getting a deal,
They were getting a great deal. They could either use it or they could sell it again and make a profit off it straight away.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. And then, you think anybody that you stole from turned around and bought it back from you?
There was one guy who actually did do that, and he actually gave me an offer, and I was quite surprised actually because he was on grid to actually scoop it himself. I walked in and I stole it in front of him, and instead of getting salty and getting all upset, he kind of like congratulated me straight away, and which was quite nice.
That's nice.
I docked up and he said, I'd like to get it back. What's your price? So I sold it to him for, I think it was a Vateva. It wasn't very much, but I sold the Vateva to him for 450. They're typically 600. So I was happy with the price. He was happy to get it for a cheaper rate.
Right.
And then he also had another one that he was apparently unavailable for because he was at work when it was on anchoring.
Right.
That was in the system next door, which I already knew about because I'd already scouted it, and I knew that he had one on anchoring. But he gave me the exact date, the exact time of when it was going to on anchor. So then I got another character over there and I scooped it and I sold that one for 450 as well. He was more than happy just to pay for it.
That's amazing. Wow.
I was quite surprised at that. I think most people would try and get it themselves, but...
Wow. Well, we'll get to you stepping away from all that here in a minute, but aren't you a little bit... it seems like structures are definitely on the rise here. We've got some new ones popping up. Engineering structures, and now this moon mining thing, and so there's going to be a lot more opportunity for this sort of.
Well, there's going to be a lot of opportunity in the way that I think a lot of Vaterus, maybe Astraeus's, but I think Vaterus more so. I think a lot of them are going to be on anchoring soon because the owners are going to want to replace it with the higher yield.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because they've got a higher
sense,
yield
right?
for
Yes.
for refining and reprocessing. Yeah,
Right.
so they're going to want to try and replace them with those ones, which I've already made the guild aware of, and they're already, they've got people in position to watch and
Okay.
see who on anchors
Yeah,
first.
because that makes
things like
perfect
that.
sense.
Yeah, so, but I really kind of left because there's some things I can't talk about.
Sure,
About.
of course.
Yeah. But I had a hand in certain political things in the
Right.
last few months.
Right.
So I'm not going to talk about that, but I will say that I had a hand in that, and
Sure.
I convinced a few people to do some stuff. And ever since then, considering I made, well, since this time last year, I think I made between 500 to 600 billion in stolen goods.
Nice.
And I've got to that point where, like, the money doesn't really mean anything anymore. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it for the salt and the tears. And then I just kind of
Right.
got a little bit bored doing that. And then I
Right.
kind of looked at my real life and thought, I can apply a lot of these skills that I've learned in EVE Online. And it's not just about the theft. It's more about looking for opportunities.
Right.
And kind of going out instead of staying in all day and actually, like, speaking to people, asking what they're doing, what their work's like and things like this, and then being able to learn what people want in their lives, and then being able to use that to help myself in
Right.
a lot of ways.
Right.
So, for example, I got a promotion at work the other week because I'm currently one of the I look after the first year students at my university. I'm on my final year at university at the moment.
Okay.
And a lot of the first years, they've never left home before. They've never been away from mum and dad before.
Right.
So they come to the university, and it's all new for them. But there are some people who come to the university as well, and they want to do malicious things. For example, selling drugs, things like this. And
course.
part of my job is to look for those sorts of things. So with my Facebook account, which isn't technically my real name, I pretended that I'm a first year student all over again. I told them that I'm doing art and drama or some other random crap, and I'm currently in 13 chat channels with all of the students, which is the student accommodation which I actually reside in, and they actually believe I'm a first year student as well, which is really, really convenient because they feel that I'm one of them and I'm not a member of staff at the university as well as a student.
Right.
So there will be
Wow.
someone who the other week they basically posted on there, does anybody know anybody who sells any pills? And then someone else posted someone's mobile number, which was a drug dealer's mobile number, and
Wow.
we managed to get the police involved. We got those students suspended. And I'm not doing this to get the students in trouble. I'm doing it to protect them because I don't want to be
Right.
woken up at
Right,
2 o'clock
sure.
in the morning one day with a telephone call from the police saying we've had one of your students who's currently in hospital, potentially dying because
Right.
of some pills that they've taken.
So you're kind of like one of those reformed hackers, right? Who are
Yeah, I
who,
suppose,
are
yeah,
helping
I mean-
catch hackers.
I've seen
Kind
news
of.
reports on those before, so
Yes.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I mean, I've said this many times before. I think there's a tremendous amount of skills and opportunities for different types of things within the EVE community, not just in the game, but also, outside. You see it all the time. People are organizing things, not just, charities, but also events and also other things. Friends of ours are, organizing entire streaming communities or putting together broadcast booths or, there's a tremendous amount of that opportunity especially for young people or people who haven't tried that, step outside of yourself a little bit. And EVE, the game itself, but also the community at large also sort of supports that, right? It lets you trial and error things because you don't have to get it right the first time. You can keep trying. Myself, I came at it the other side because I've been alive for a really long time. I don't want to, necessarily say I'm old, but I'm older. But so I came to EVE with a lot of those skills already. So I used my life skills in EVE. After I stopped playing it like a game, because for the first year or so, I just played EVE like it was a game, like any other game that I'd ever played. It took me about a year to figure out that it really didn't have to be like that. It could be something else. So, but a lot of people, I think, like yourself or younger, who are coming to EVE or coming out of EVE with a lot more experience in those areas. Think about it from a corporate management. Personnel, right? I mean, we deal with crazy people in our corporations or with people in our alliance who are, different than us, from another country, maybe not speak our language, maybe not share our cultural same. But you have to learn a way to deal with those, to create a cohesive group, to organize events, that people will participate in, and that's really those are valuable skills out in the real world.
They are
too.
very valuable skills.
Extremely,
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
And
I think I think like some of the biggest stuff that I've actually learned in Eve while I was actually there is the confidence to actually, just try something, even if you think, it's probably not going to work. Just get out there and give it a go. Having the confidence to just do something that you think may succeed is actually something really big. Because I think a lot of young people, well, not so much myself now, but years ago, I think I was, and I'm kind of looking back at myself now, I think I was too scared to do stuff that, I thought I was going to fail at. I thought, there's no point in me even trying to do this because I'm just not good enough. And I think a lot of young people today feel like that all the time, and they just don't have they don't have the confidence to get up and go. And I think it's fear that holds them back because they think the world is such a complicated place, and it is. It is a very, very complicated place.
Yes.
But if once you've actually got the experience and you've got kind of like a get up and go attitude, and you just throw yourself in at the deep end and just try and learn to swim, and I found. I really just want to give a round of applause to CCP really for making such an incredible game that actually helps people in that way, because it has completely changed my life in so many ways. I've had so many new opportunities in the last few months in my life. One of the main reasons why I've actually left Eve is to capitalize on these opportunities. And it is all because Eve's now given me the confidence to move on with my life and actually do something better than what I was doing before.
Well, I'm extremely encouraged to hear that, because I mean, this is not the first time I've heard this story. I've heard this story from lots of people over the years. I've been playing Eve now for a little over 9 years now. So, and I've heard this story a lot, from other people that I've known in the game who learned something, who tried something new and found out something about themselves and think that will be able to translate to real life. And I know it does, because I've seen. It's kind of weird when you've been involved in a community for almost a decade, right? And there are people who have been involved with it longer, but you kind of, and I hate to say this, but you kind of, I don't know what a better word for it, grow up with certain people.
Yeah, I agree.
And you see them evolve, because you think about it, 9 years is a long time. If somebody came to, let's say, for example, my own son, he was 12 or almost 14 when we started playing. He's 24 years old and married now. So I've seen that translation, right? So that's how much time. That's a lot of time.
That's a lot of time, especially during that time of that sort of age, with all the growing up and all that sort of thing.
And a lot of the people that we fly with, or that I fly with, who I knew back then, that 10 years have gone by in their lives too. So they're growing up, they're getting jobs, they've had children, or they've grown families, and they're experiencing things as well. One of my original CEOs was a politician in Wales, so I watched him do that, and so a lot of that is happening around you all the time, which is it's pretty amazing. I don't think there's, from a game standpoint, I think there's a lot to be learned there too, but I think the community is very supportive in many ways, but people are encouraged. And I would disqualify one thing you said. I don't really think it has anything to do with young necessarily. I think it's anybody. I think that there are people my age who are trapped in who find themselves trapped in a life where they've perhaps given up or not tried, or they tried once and they got burned and they never tried again. And I think that, it also even encourages you to leap, right? I try to communicate that in, not only in this podcast, but also in other things that I do, is to take that chance. That's kind of the core. I'll give you an example. It's kind of the core of what Stay Frosty's built about is whatever you want to do. If it sounds fun, we're going to go do it. So if we want to jump down the Great Wildlands and take SOF, that's what we're going to do. If we're going to take a POS, or we're going to take down a station, or we're going to do, whatever it is we would like to try, let's just go do it, right? So
yeah, definitely.
You come up with some harebrained scheme, and then we're just going to do that. I could still remember I was flying around with a couple of guys in, I think it was like Faith Abilis or somewhere down there, and we were there was nobody around, and it was one of those boring Saturdays probably where we were flying around for a couple hours and nothing was happening. And I said to somebody, we have all these POSs are password protected. I wonder if we could guess So we spent like 3 or 4 hours flying around. I think it was AAA space. It might have been somebody else. But we just spent hours flying around trying to decode the passwords to POSs. And, we tried I don't know, 30, 40 different POSs. And we did get 2 or 3 of them because they were dumb passwords like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or, things like that. And, I think we ended up our biggest score that day, I think, was a couple of nightmares and a couple other battleships, so we had
that's brilliant. I never even considered doing that myself, so that's actually now the cogs in my head are starting turning now, so that's actually really good. Before the POSs are deleted from the game,
passwords. Yeah, because people are so lazy, right? So it's like start thinking about it, and it's like they say that even in real life, right? You're on your mobile phone. So many people's passwords is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or...
I've got a friend of mine at university who's got that, and every time I steal his phone, I just put it in and like take a really ugly picture of myself and put it as wallpaper just to annoy him.
That's funny. Yeah. Because generally people are lazy, right? And they don't think about it. So it's not all that hard. But so that was a fun day. Or it might have actually ended up being a couple of days we did that, but because we were having some success. I forgot the best part of that story. The best part of it is, however long it was, the last one, the password was AAA, and it was a AAA, and it had a Leviathan in it. It was a Titan, and this is back. And this is back when there used to be a thing on the internet. I can't remember what the website was called, but it was like tracktitan.com or whatever. Because there were so few Titans in the game back then that there was actually a website that tracked every single one of them.
Yeah,
and I think there was only like 47 or 50 or whatever. So that was one of them, and their password was very bad, and there was nothing we could do. I didn't know anybody at the time who could fly a Titan, right? Yeah.
Oh, it's such a shame that we didn't have skill injectors back then, because first thing I would have done is be like, let's inject
no matter how
billion. Doesn't matter how much. Even if it's over the price of the Titan, it's the story that matters.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, those were really different days too, because not only was that nobody knew how to fly a Titan, because that was a character that you lost, right, back then. If you put a guy in a Titan, he was done.
It was a coffin.
Yeah, you were never. So there was a dude in that Titan. So that was weird. And then the other side of it too is this ISK was so much more rare. I mean, it was much more rare. Now, and I don't know if this is a problem or if it's going to become a problem at some point, but I'm concerned about it. And that was one of the things I was going to ask you today. As you're leaving, do you have any warnings for everybody? But I think one of those is the ballooning of ISK, right? So, because you say just skill up 40 or 50 billion, but I can remember then that was a lot of ISK. There weren't people who had that kind of money.
It's
very
obviously
many.
all due to inflation rates. That's pretty much what it is.
Exactly.
And the amount of people who are doing things like incursions, it's all to do with all the ISK facets that are coming in, and people can just make money so quickly off NPC agents, which is obviously building ISK. It actually makes new currency in the game.
Right.
But the best thing that people need to do at the moment is to try and destroy ISK, but CCP need to kind of think about what they're going to do to actually create more ISK holes, more ISK sinks really in the game. Because at the moment it is pretty bad, especially with Plex being, 1.5 billion at the moment for a month?
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
Yes. It is ridiculous. I agree. I don't, like I said, I don't know if that's like the end of Eve or Eve is dying, to pardon a very popular phrase. But I do think I am concerned about it, because it doesn't seem like we're burning through it like we used to, right? So, yeah.
Well, it's because we got the blue donut at the moment, which kind of is going the other way. There are people starting to fight again, I've noticed. Or I've heard the chatter anyway.
Yeah.
But people just aren't fighting as much as they used to. People aren't as interested in people are more interested in Venter Empires and things like this, which is nice. Venter Empires are good. It brings in a lot of money. It's really good. I understand that.
Sure.
But the problem is, it's just people aren't blowing enough stuff up. It's like, I'm very, very happy with what CCP said over the Vegas keynote, when it was regarding the changes that they're going to bring to the citadels and all the structures when it comes to shooting them.
Yes,
because
very nice
there's
stuff.
so many abandoned ones in high sec. It's
ridiculous. Yeah, and I agree, and I think that was awesome. But here's the thing, and you touched on it a little while ago too. Is you can build a game, you can put all the mechanics in, you can put all the rule sets, the thing that drives it, though, and that's not the brilliance of Eve, in my opinion. My opinion is not what CC. I mean, obviously they did a great job, because otherwise it wouldn't. But the real true brilliance of it is the people that populate it, right? People like yourself who found a thing that they could do. Not everyone's going to think of that. People
there were the odd one or two people which I bumped into who were like independent and they were stealing them as well. Sure. And but there wasn't that many. I've no idea like what the actual number is, but I can almost like estimate that it's probably like less than 1% of the Eve population is doing what I was doing.
Right.
And having that sort of niche and like being able to corner that sort of market, that sort of area of the game is unbelievably satisfying. I think my biggest advice to anybody who wants to make it big and make a lot of money is to combine a number of game mechanics together to that that is actually going to result in you making money. And I was able to do that with Citadel Theft, was actually combining sometimes tens of different game mechanics together to be able to get a hold of stuff. Sometimes I would even infiltrate an entire corporation, so sometimes for a few weeks. And one of my biggest ploys were to be something along the lines of, "Hi guys, I've got this new Citadel that I would like to deploy, but I don't have the balls to do it. Can I have temporary directivites, please, to deploy the Citadel?"
Right.
And then when they give me directivites, I look at the Corp wallet and I notice that the Corp shares are still there, and I take all of them and make myself CEO. Kick everyone from Corp and steal everything they've got, including the current structures that they already have.
Right.
It was so easy. It really was really easy. It's unbelievable. All you got to do, I think the biggest skill that you guys can actually have in the game is charisma. And it's not charisma like as a skill in the game. It's like your own personal charisma that you can use on comms, or you can use while you're typing to actually convince people to do your bidding.
Yep.
If you can manipulate people as well, it's so much more fun.
Yeah. It really is all it takes. It's a little bit of chutzpah, right? A little bit of just believing enough in yourself, whether what you're doing is right or wrong, and bulldozing through it and not taking no for an answer. But not being a dick about it either, because then that red flags come up, right? So it's being super friendly about it, but in a normal, casual sort of way, but yet having a predetermined end goal in mind, right? So
you have to have something that corporation needs or wants.
Right.
That's usually the best way to get them to give you roles, is to have something that you've got that they don't. So it could be, let's say that they've got an Astraeus that you're interested in stealing. That's all you're interested in, is just the Astraeus, because it's 1 billion. Who doesn't want to steal that?
Sure.
Right. And you join the corp, and they're just a mining corp, high-sec mining corp, and they don't have an orca. They've got like 4 guys, but they don't have an orca, but you do.
Right.
So, and you can fly it perfectly, perfect skills. You got the implant, everything. So then you can go out with them, and you're helping them out with the orca. They're unloading into the orca, and you can go and take it away, so they don't have to leave the mining fields and stuff. They get really happy about that, because that's like new for them. Usually, it's a brand new corporation with new players, which have already been playing a few months or something.
And they're super impressed by what you just done.
They're super impressed.
Yes.
Yeah. And then at that point, then you can start to manipulate them. You can say something along the lines of, "Oh, I would like to help recruit new people into the corporation, but I need the roles to do it." And I did some research, Mr. CEO, and I found that the director one is really good for that. And then they're like, "Oh, okay, that's a good idea. I'll give you director roles now." Yep. And you know the rest of the story.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, I've seen it happen so many times, and it makes sense when you think about it, because you just committed, this huge ship, right? That everyone in the corporation is super impressed with. Oh my gosh, we don't have one of those. That's pretty awesome. So you must be legit, because you're risking that, because there's a chance that we could be bushwhacked or something could happen and you could lose it or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
Of course. And then everyone's really impressed. So why you must be. And then the game asks you to do that too, because at some point you need people. If you have any goals at all, sooner or later you're going to need to trust somebody, and for the most part, unless you just happen to be lucky, you're forming a corporation with 20 of your college best friends. Otherwise, it's going to be people you don't know in real life, and that's always tricky. It'll come back and bite you sometimes, sometimes not.
Even people that you actually know in real life, and you start a thing with them. There have been stories where people do steal, and then they lose their friendship in real life, and it's really not that great.
Yeah.
I've seen the things. I've seen the stories.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was a couple weeks ago after the judges thing, and somebody was writing an article, and it was like one of the comments I always remember. I remember this one because it was like, "Yep, I've been there." The guys were friends on Facebook, and he's like, I wasn't really mad that he stole stuff. I was mad because I lost a friend. It's like, oh
yeah. What was that? Was that before the judge? Because I think I remember that. Was that like the Amanaki police or something where that guy stole one of the AT ships? I saw something relevant to that.
Yeah, it was something. I think it was even last year that happened. But
fair play to the guy. He spent like years or over a year or something trying to get a hold of that. Good job.
Yeah,
good job.
Yeah, that's dedication for you right there.
I mean, you get the guys like the judge, and you get that guy who did that, and they spend a lot of time going after one target.
Right.
And while that's, yes, okay, I agree, it's very, very profitable when it pays off, but a lot of the time I always find it doesn't really pay off because, you've spent that amount of time and you just eventually fail and it sucks. That's why I decided that I was going to go after small targets rather than huge targets who are usually a little bit more smarter. And I'll go after the small targets who maybe they're new to the game. I wouldn't say brand new because I'm not that much of an ass, but at least 6-7 months new into the game.
Right.
I'll jump into bed with them, manipulate them, get my stuff, and then bail. And I won't get a huge amount. Maybe I'll get like 4 or 5 billion here and there. But when you've got not just one, but you've got like 10 or 15 characters of yours that each of them has got a different name and a different alias and a different thing that they're doing in real life, I actually had to start writing down, which I still do now. I've got a text document on my desktop that basically tells me which character. So it's got my character name on that account, and it's basically like this person is a waitress or a waiter rather, or something like this, and then I have to basically like make my own like identity up for each of them, so people don't, if they bump into each other, they don't realize that I'm the same person.
Same person, right? Wow. Yeah.
So I had to completely make a false identity for each corporation I was infiltrating, and because it was such a large like thing to keep on top of, I had to start writing things down to keep track of things, because I would go to bed and I'll wake up the next day and I'd be like, what the hell happened yesterday? I don't even remember half of that shit. So I just had to write down everything that was doing.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. I've always been fascinated. I don't really, that's not a part of the game that I'm personally interested in. I don't have anything against it, obviously, because it's part of the EVE, but I've always wondered that too. So that makes sense, because how do you keep track of all those different threads, right?
You just have to. I mean, if I
you've got to take notes
right now. I've got 4 folders. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 text documents and a few Word documents as well, and that's all on my desktop in the lower right, because I've just got all that information. It's all organized. Organization is the key to doing something like this, to having an operation of this sort of magnitude. You have to be organized, because your brain just can't process that amount of information and keep it all together coherently.
Right.
You really have to just sit down and make sure that you got your shit together. And I'm not going to lie, there were times where I did slip up and I was kicked out of court.
Right.
One of my characters on EVE Who actually says, and I'll actually have a look and I'll quote it. Give me a moment. Let's have a look.
Right.
Oh, I don't want that one.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was good fun when I actually logged on to EVE Who and I saw that on one of my characters. Oh, for God's sake.
Yeah, sooner or later you're going to make a mistake, right? You're only human. You can't be a robot.
Yeah. I had one that says corp thief, do not recruit, steals pittance and then burns himself by telling the corp. And one was actually made me laugh. It said, utterly despicable swave spy, diligent destruction of soul, would recruit him again. I thought that was quite humorous.
That's funny. That's pretty funny. That's fun. Yeah, I mean, you're going to get caught, I guess, every once in a while. I'm sure all the schemes don't always work, right? So
no,
sometimes...
definitely not. I've had, I think, at least half of my schemes, they just didn't work out. I mean, I actually started doing something because I thought to myself, this could work. So there was 2 things which I tried to do, which didn't work out as well as I'd liked, because, well, it did work. It was working, but the amount of money per week or per month just didn't really make it viable. So I just thought, you know what, this is barely even worth my time bothering to do this. So I shut those ideas down.
Right.
One of the ideas was to have a citadel. So I would have an Astraeus, for example, like anchored in some system, and it would be called For Sale Citadel, and that would be it. And then people would contact me, not very frequently, but eventually someone would send me a mail, which typically when I'm offline or in bed, and they would say, what do you want for the Citadel? So I'd say, it's got nothing on it. I just want 1 billion for the Astreus. And then it did actually work. Someone would send me 1 billion ISK, and I would not give them the Astreus. And that's it.
That was the whole scam.
It was so simple, really, really easy. But then, someone else would come along and they would say, no, I want you to transfer it first, and then I'll give you the money. And I'm like, no, I'm not happening. There was one guy who sent me half the money first, and then, hoping that I was going to give it to him. But obviously, I just make 500 mil, and I'm cool with that. I just close the chat and say goodbye. And there was another one which is a little bit more complicated, but didn't work out either. And I think it's due to the fact that I didn't have 100% experience in the game mechanics in regards to tax rates. But I set up a Vateru in an ice mining system, put some rigs on it, and gave it a reprocessing thing. And I basically put all the taxes at 0% and made it a public station as well.
Right.
So small corporations started docking there. They opened up an office there for 0 ISK because it was 0% taxes. And then because the office, it's once a month, as soon as people started having offices in there, I then whacked up the prices to 500, 600 million ISK on their thing. And then the next month, that money would then start coming my way, and it was really good. And then they would have to shut the office down because it was too expensive for them. And that was interesting. But it just took too long to get the money coming in. It just wasn't really viable.
Right. Yeah.
But that's one of the things the Thieves Guild kind of does. We are a guild which is set on. We're a group of players from everywhere in the game, and we're set on making money in the fastest way possible. Not just because it's making money, it's more for the fun of it, I guess, and the challenge of being able to do that. So we're not just there to actually steal things, we're also more like a think tank. So every single thing that comes out in the game that's new, so all of the stuff which we saw in Vegas, we're making notes about this. We've started I was kind of like thinking to myself about when you had those new mining NPC things that were coming out, like, can we come in there and gank people sort of thing, and so all these new mechanics are coming out in the game, and we've started to kind of like think about what we can use them for, how we can manipulate them to our bidding to kind of either catch a player out or steal their stuff or things like this. And that's the fun part of what we do. I think the most boring part would probably be all the data gathering, putting it on the damn spreadsheet.
Yeah, all the hard work that goes into it, right?
That's always that was the difficult part.
So so you decided to step away because of things that are going on in real life, which is understandable. I mean, I've personally done it myself a few times. Take a break here and there because just craziness. But you're going to stay involved with the community at large, correct?
Yeah, I actually had a guy a few hours ago was actually talking to me. He's relatively new. He had to take a break because he hurt his leg or something, and he's had to go to hospital and spend some time in hospital. He's come back, and he's now an alpha account, and he's been kicked out of court due to inactivity. Right. And he's basically asking me for some ideas on how to make money quick so he can plex his account. So I gave him a nudge in the right direction. I didn't give him all the information, not because I don't want to. It's more because I find, especially after being at university, I find that self-teaching yourself is always the best way to actually learn new skills.
Yes.
So I nudged him in the right direction. I basically said, right, go and do these sorts of things and go and think about why they're good and why they work together. So he's gone off and he's doing that now.
Oh, good.
And yeah, I'm definitely staying involved in the community, so that there'll be people who post stuff on the Facebook group, and I'll just have to have a giggle about it in my head. I maybe post something or troll the hell out of someone who's got really salty about getting ganked by code or stuff like that. I'll have to do that.
Right, of course.
The temptation is too high.
I think it would be, I imagine it in my head, like sometimes, just think, okay, how would I do this, and just walk away, right? And I think at this point it would be almost impossible.
Definitely
to just walk away.
The game and the community have changed my life so much that I can't just walk away now. I mean, I'm pretty sure you may know, but I'm also part of the Sixth Empire as well with Fire Event.
Sure.
And Space Pope. So I'm almost like Space Pope's personal assistant when we go to FanFest and stuff.
Right.
And I think you did actually meet me when we were at FanFest.
Okay, right.
But very briefly, because you were very busy. You dropped off that, if I remember correctly, was it you who gave Max the book with all the pictures in, if I remember, the really nice one.
Yeah.
Yep. I thought so, yeah. So, because Charles had so many interviews and so many things going on for the first, couple of days, he had, there was, gaming magazine companies and stuff, they wanted to have an interview with him.
Yes.
So I was his personal assistant during that. So, yeah, I definitely can't step away from the community now. I love you guys too much.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I told my wife that. I said, and she agrees. I mean, well, last night we had a space friend of ours in the Alliance who came up from Virginia to meet with us, and invited us out to a hockey game. So we spent the whole evening together, and that's just we met through Eve. That's
I think I saw the pictures on Facebook actually. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, it's that kind of stuff. When I think about not going to Iceland, it's like, well, how many times are we going to go? I've seen a lot of the country now. It's like, well, it's not just about Eve, it's about missing your friends, right? It's like it's
totally.
trying to catch up with everybody. So
I think most of my true friends, there's one guy I've never met before because he's over in the United States and he hasn't been to FanFest yet. I need to get him over here, or I need to find the time and the money to go to the US and see him.
Right.
But I would trust him with my damn bank account, in real life. I'm not even joking. Hands down, he's one of those guys where we've just clicked and we've known each other for so long.
Right.
Even though I'm part of the guild, I would never betray him, and I would never betray any of the people in the guild either.
Right.
And there's people that I've got closer friends in Eve than I do in real life, and that sounds pretty damn sad. I'm going to be quite honest. I sound like one of these guys that never leaves his mom's basement or something, and I don't have a life. But no, I do. Yeah, I've got real life friends as well.
Well,
but I think
what
a lot of the people I trust are from Eve. So
I had somebody at I don't remember where this was, work, I think, maybe, or somewhere. But we were talking about it, and I was telling them of all the things that some of the things that I do, and they're like, "Well, why?" I mean, and I said to them, I said, "Well, how do you make friends with people you never met?" And I said, "Well, look at it this way: it's in real life, our real lives, for the most part, most people are so sedentary, right? I mean, and protected. We're not." We're not in a famine together, usually. I mean, hopefully. We're not in an earthquake or some kind of survival thing where you band together with people. But I said, so now we're searching for those kind of moments virtually, too. I
agree.
And so Eve is just a boiling thing of hot freaking mess, right? And there are people that you just kind of coalesce with, right? And you, and you boil together, and it's almost like the old days when kids used to go off to war, to fight on the Western Front, or and they'd come back and they'd be the best mates ever, forever, right?
I think it's
kind of like that,
I honestly do think it's part of the human psyche that we need to have that sort of thing. And the modern world recently has deprived us of these sorts of experiences. And, humans, we're actually building things now, for example, EVE Online or other MMOs, where we're able to, get these experiences from that. And I honestly do believe that is part of the human psyche, and we need to have that sort of interaction between each other. Yeah.
I agree, because a lot of my real-life friends, I've known for a long time, but we haven't been together through... we haven't been through these things together. Like a lot of my friends in real life, that I know, they're my friends because I've known them for a long time. But, we haven't really shared, these groundbreaking sort of things that a lot of the people that I know on Eve, we've all been through it. We've all been through the breakup of NC Dot. We've all been through Vile Rat, being killed in Benghazi. The more time that goes by, the more shared experiences that all of us have. And then when we get together, we all have common ground, right? It's like, oh my God, do you believe what happened to Judge? Do you believe what happened to this? And it's all, from a big stuff down to the micro stuff that happens in your own corporation, or that you've shared with people in Thieves Guild. These are all common bonding things that have happened to all of us.
Well, I've got one of my real life friends, Marty. He's a university student here. He's on his final year doing his PhD at the moment. So soon I'll have to call him doctor. He'll probably be pushing me to do that.
Right.
But
all the time.
I've only known him now for probably not even 3 years. But we've been through a lot together, because when he first came to the UK, he's originally from Iran, so he's a foreign exchange student here.
Right.
But when he came to the UK, he had he really struggled with the English because over in foreign countries they typically learn American English. They learn with American accents, and when they come over to the UK and they start hearing the one of the 141 accents which we have in the UK, yes, we have that many. It's ridiculous. Right. Yeah. He couldn't understand anybody, so I was kind of like translating English to English so he could understand what people were saying. Right. So we started to bond in that way, and ever since then I'm like his best friend and he's my best friend, even though I had friends at the university before he even came here, and some of those friends at the university which I'd known previously, nothing's changed between them, but me and Marty have got so close that, you know, I'd be more than happy to give him my bank card and say, yeah, you know, go get us a pint from the bar. Right. But my other friends, like some of the ones I got on my course, I wouldn't give them my card at all. It's just like, no, it's not going to happen.
Not happening, no.
But I mean, Marty, because he's from part of the world where they don't have Christmas because it's Iran, it's all Islam and stuff like that. Sure. He had his first Christmas last Christmas.
Nice.
He came to my hometown, met my parents, and
that's awesome. Together. Oh, that's cool.
He really enjoyed it. You know, it was really good. But that's how close we are with the friendship. You know,
that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, no, and those kinds of things, you know, you can't replace those with anything. So
definitely
not. Yeah, whether they're virtual or real or anything, it doesn't matter. You know, as long as they're real. It doesn't matter where they stem from, right? The connection's real, so it might as well be whatever. So
talking of friendships in regards to virtual friendships, Fivey Red, Rhiannon,
absolutely,
from Sixth Empire, she this was months ago now, but I was down on my luck because I'd failed one of my exams at university. I've recently passed it, thank God.
Thank you.
I failed
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. But at the time I was pretty annoyed, and I didn't have much money in the bank either. So I was speaking to her, kind of like beef. Broadcast for rep sort of thing, but only within Sixth Empire. And then she messaged me and we talked for a bit, and to kind of pick me up, she ordered me a Domino's pizza over the internet. And it came to my address and everything. I had like pizza, I had drinks, I had loads of stuff. It was really good.
That's awesome.
So this is what we do. If anybody ever wants a group or corporation or an alliance that actually treats you like that, join Sixth Empire. We're awesome.
Yep. No, that's very cool. That's a great story. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I mean, do you have any final words you'd like to say, or any last thoughts before you
just want to give a quick shout out to everybody on in the Thieves Guild and everyone in Sixth Empire, which I've pretty much been doing all day recently anyway. But I want to give a shout out to a friend called Rixx, who's at the University of Liverpool with me, who typically hears a lot of my stories that goes on. And he's one of the few people I can actually talk about with pretty much everything that I do in the game, because he doesn't play it, but he knows what I do, and he listens to the show and stuff. So,
that's awesome. That's awesome.
All right.
Shout out to the mate there in Liverpool. That's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll try to get over there sometime.
Well, you're more than welcome to. I actually have been considering, since I've now left, potentially doing some sort of an Eve meet in Liverpool sort of thing, like maybe once a year. Right. So I might start organising something like that.
Well, good idea. Good idea. Yeah, excellent. Hey, hang on after I hang up, okay?
Sure.